Hi everyone. So thank you very much for joining this EfL online workshop. This workshop will focus on how you can capture and review evidence looking at the basics. This workshop took place on Monday the 8th of November and it will take place again on Tuesday the 23rd November. To be honest, the workshop's just finished, but unfortunately Zoom did not record it correctly. So I'm just going to rerun it now in terms of demonstrating it again so that you will be able to watch this recording. If we look at what we did cover in this EfL online workshop, so I'm going to focus on how we can capture evidence using the EfL app. We'll then also look at how you can locate and review evidence in terms of the basics using the EfL app. And then we'll move across to the web console, which is a browser version of the app. And that allows you to capture evidence, review evidence using a computer. Finally, we held a question and answer session. And unfortunately, I won't be able to bring those people back to add those into the recording. What I will do is I will, at the end of the session, draw on some of the questions that were asked, and I'll also try and answer them again so that everyone can benefit from that too. So without further ado, we're now going to switch across to be able to start to demonstrate how to capture and review evidence, first of all, using the EfL app. So I've now opened up the Evidence for Learning app on my device. And Evidence for Learning is a toolkit to help you as a school community to collectively create a vivid and comprehensive picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners in your school over time. And I do mean the school community, because if we just take a moment to think of all the members of staff and outside agencies that might be working with a specific learner. You can think of the teacher, the teaching assistant. There might be therapists that are based in your school or regularly come into your school to work with that learner. There'll be the family and the carers of that particular learner too. Evidence for Learning allows all those stakeholders to collectively create this comprehensive and vivid picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners. In this demonstration, I've already added data to the cloud, such as learners, groups, frameworks, and tags, and I've already added those items onto my device, so I'm ready to start to capture evidence. At the end of this session, I will direct people to the EfL Online Resource Centre, where there's lots of guides and videos, including walkthrough videos to be able to help you at every stage. But particularly also around how to add information to the cloud, such as learners or groups, as well as then setting up your device so that it's got an active subscription and it's also got the data on it that you want to be able to use. But let's go straight into now to look at various buttons within the app that we'll be using today. So the first one is this big capture button in the middle, where we're going to be able to capture some evidence. There's also three icons underneath capture, and we'll be looking at the two to the left. So the furthest to the left underneath capture is the learner profile section, where we can see all the evidence and reports that's been gathered for a specific learner. And also underneath capture in the middle, there's an evidence icon that we'll look toward to be able to filter for evidence in the cloud. And then finally, we'll use the pencil and pad icon at the very bottom right of the screen to access the assessment area of the app. But to start off with, let's go and capture some evidence. So what I'm now going to do is tap on capture in the middle. And now we can capture a piece of evidence. And in this example, I'm going to capture some evidence for one learner. So I'm going to press the plus to the right of learners. I could then either go into a relevant group to locate the learner, or I can tap on all learners on this device. And that's what I'm going to do in this example. I'm then going to scroll down. Today, I'm going to capture some evidence from Michael Sheridan. So I tap on his name and a tick appears on the right-hand side. I can then say done at the top right to confirm that selection. And we can now see that this piece of evidence, his observation, is going to be linked to the learner, Michael Sheridan. It's automatically defaulted to be today's date, this piece of evidence. If you wanted to change the date, you could use the calendar on the right-hand side. Now, if we think of a piece of evidence as different layers of observational data or information that we want to record today, then the first one will be that we can add a photo or a video or a combination of both. So you can add up to 3 photographs or up to 3 1-minute videos. So you just tap on the plus on the left-hand side, and you can either take a photo or a video in a live setting. And the majority of schools I'm speaking to are probably gathering evidence through that way, taking live photos or videos, and it goes straight into the app. Obviously, I'm not in a school setting, so what I will do is I'm going to tap photo or video library. Therefore, you can add a photo or a video from your library, from your device. So in this case, I'm just going to tap on the photo that I want to use. And if I do want to use that one, I just tap use at the top right, which I'll do. And again, if I wanted to, I could add another 2 photos or a combination of videos up to 1 minute in length. If we then think of the next layer, that I might add some useful comments to go alongside this video or picture. So I'm going to press the plus to the right of comments. And then at your school, you could either just type freehand, I suppose, into the comments. And remember that you also have a dictation button to the left of the space bar at the bottom on anywhere on an iOS device, an iPad, where you've got a keyboard. So you can always tap onto that dictation feature and you'd then be able to talk into the device and it will write it for you. At your school, you may also be using already comment templates. So comment templates can be set up and then added to a device. I'm going to tap on the magnifying glass on the right to add a comment template. You may have a number of comment templates in your school, and then you'd use the relevant one that you'd want to select on this day. But here I'm just going to tap on the top one, so just tap on it, and it will then come through into the screen here. So what I can then do is I could then just tap anywhere on the screen, a cursor appears, I tap and hold the cursor and just move it to where I want it to go. You can see there's a little grey, faint, smaller cursor where it's going to drop, and I just let go, just like that. So then I can just type in if I wanted to, or use the dictation feature at the bottom to be able to add in this example, this comments template is asking me to record the comments, maybe what was taking place in the activity, what sort of support was being needed, what prompting was being needed. And again, this is comment template. It's encouraging me to reflect on the sort of next step. So, okay, based on this evidence, what's going to be the next piece of learning for this learner? And again, you can put your comment into there that's related to the next steps area. Again, I can just fill in at the bottom. Your comment template might record who's observing or making the observation. I'm just putting my first name. I could always put my surname if I wanted to. So comment templates are set up and structured in a way that you feel is going to be useful for you at your school. And it does encourage a consistent approach in terms of the observations and the comments that are being recorded. So once you've filled in the comment, you just tap done at the top right, and then that will come across. And again, if we go back to this idea of different layers of information that's being recorded, I may just want to record this photos and videos and comments that go with it and link it to Michael. And that could happen, and I could do that. But you might also want to link this observation or this piece of evidence to a specific framework item or a number of framework items. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the plus to the right of frameworks to link it to a framework. I then tap add links to a framework. And there are 2 main types of frameworks in evidence for learning. There's a framework which is used with a number of learners, and that might be something like the pre-key stage standards framework, for example, or the AET framework. So in that way, I'm going to tap on pre-key stage standards English reading. So this is a framework with a number of outcomes, and a number of learners might be working towards them. In any framework in evidence for learning, you have the option to collapse the framework down or to expand it out. When you first of all open the framework, it's automatically expanded. If you wanted to, you can collapse it down and then go into one of the relevant sections and be able to then link to the specific outcome. Again, if I wanted to, I could expand it and then go down to a particular outcome within the framework and be able to link evidence to it. So a tick appears to indicate that you're going to be linking this to this specific outcome. And you can see I've also linked it to one above. So you can link one piece of evidence to a number of outcomes within one framework. And then you just say done at the top right. You can clearly see the name of the framework that's been linked to, the areas then of the framework, so English language comprehension and reading, the standard, the long-term aim of this particular outcome, and then the short-term outcome, I suppose, where it's actually been specifically linked to. If you want, you can see it's been linked to 2 framework items within the pre-Key Stage Standards English Reading Framework. I can also link this piece of evidence to another type of framework. So I'm going to tap the pencil icon on the right. I can see the framework item it's been linked to if I want to adapt it. I'm also going to add links to a framework. And now I'm going to link it to this other type of framework in evidence for learning. The other type of framework is a framework that is specific to one learner. We call that framework type a PLG. So PLG just stands for Personal Learning Goals, and it may contain a set of long or short-term targets and possibly linked to the learner's EHCP or any set of personalized targets for a specific learner. So in this example, I'm going to type on Michael Sheridan's PLG, and it's called Michael Sheridan EHCP and Learning Outcomes. This is a real PLG that the school has let us to be able to use for demonstration purposes, so we've obviously changed the name. Again, I can collapse the framework all the way down, and this learner didn't have a physical and/or sensory target this time. That's why we've got 3 areas of the EHCP. I can then also expand it all the way out if that's what I want to do, to be able to see the whole framework. I can scroll down then to see the set of personalized outcomes that Michael is working towards. If we just take a moment to have a look at it slightly closer. First of all, these grey dots indicate that some evidence or observational data for Michael has been linked to that specific outcome. It doesn't tell me how much, but it's still a useful feature to be able to see that some evidence has already been linked there. You can also see within cognition and learning, this learner had 3 long-term targets that we can see on the screen at the moment, and then a set of smaller term targets. And this particular example has been built and developed over time. So it was started off with just this long-term outcome within this section, and then this shorter term target has been added. And over time, as the learners progressed and achieved, further targets and outcomes have been added to this PLG. I can still add more observations to it, regardless if it's got a grey dot or not. I just tap on it and a tick will appear. And I can also tap anywhere I'd like to be able to link this outcome to. And then I just say done at the top right. Just let Zoom catch up with that. And then we're now taken back to the evidence screen, and we can see here that it's been linked to Michael Sheridan EHCP and learning outcomes. We can see the area of the PLG, cognition and learning, it's been linked to, and indirectly it's been made reference to this long-term outcome that Michael is working towards. And it's specifically been linked to this shorter term outcome. Michael will demonstrate consistent understanding of position words in, on, and under. So evidence for learning is a fantastic tool to make sure that all the members of staff, teaching assistants, therapists, teachers are all really clear on what are Michael's targets and why a Michael's short-term target is this specific item. Well, the reason is because it's working towards this longer-term overall target from the EHCP. So everyone on a day-to-day basis can be really clear on what Michael's targets are and why we're working on them. If I scroll down further, within this piece of evidence, we can also add a tag to the piece of evidence. Tags are a really useful way of you being able to embed key language into your observations, as well as locating specific types of teaching or learning or interventions or resources that might be being used across the school. So I'm going to tap the plus to the right of tags. And these are the tags that are being added to my cloud and have also been added onto my device. You can see we've added a prefix to them, and we've got tags around different areas of the curriculum. We've also added some tags around different interventions that may be taking place across the school, as well as different resources that might be being used. And more I'm seeing recently schools adding tags that are specific to their school around the values and the key things that they try and promote in their learners. So you may have nice displays around the walls around these are our key values at our school. And you may at some point have a stakeholder coming in and say, okay, that's great that that's one of your key values. Well, let's show me some of the evidence or show me that you're working towards that with your learners. And the great thing is if this piece of evidence was around, for example, kindness or it was around literacy writing, I could add these tags to this piece of evidence very quickly. A tick will appear on the right hand side. I'll say done at the top right. And now what I can then see is at a later date, I could search for Michael for any evidence that's been linked with a specific tag. Or alternatively, I could look for a whole group, for example, the oak class or the blue class, that any evidence that's had been linked towards a particular curriculum area or resource that's been used. Or again, maybe across the whole school, I want to find any evidence that we've been working towards a specific value that we try and promote. So tags are a great way of embedding key language in terms of your observations, and also at a later date, being able to locate specific types of evidence or teaching or learning that might be taking place. Because they are displayed in alphabetical order, I do recommend you consider adding some sort of prefix on them. So all your curriculum tags or all your value tags or your resources tags are all grouped together. Again, in this session, we won't be looking further at indicators. There is a further EfL online workshop that was focused more on tags and also on how indicators can be used to track engagement following the Watford review. But just do be aware that there is a preloaded indicator set that allows you to gather evidence and observations and to track engagement against the 5 areas of engagement following the Watford review. You'd be very welcome to join those future online workshops that are focused on that. So I'm now just going to scroll back up. So on this piece of evidence now, I've linked it to Michael, I've added in a photo, I've also added in comments, and we've chosen to also add specific links to frameworks as well as specific tags. So this piece of evidence now, I would have a choice if I just want to save it onto my device or if I want to upload it to the cloud. I would strongly recommend that you save the evidence to the cloud. That means it will be stored securely. You can continue to edit it once it's in the cloud, but my colleagues would be able to see it too. So I would strongly recommend that you turn the orange square to green and then press save at the top right. Turning the orange square to green and then pressing save will mean that piece of evidence is uploaded to the cloud as soon as there's an internet connection. So what I then want to look at is, okay, well, how do we locate that evidence that either I've gathered on my device or that a colleague has now gathered and it's been uploaded to the cloud? So I want to be able to locate evidence that's been uploaded to the cloud. So I can then click on the learner profile icon, which is the icon underneath capture to the left. And each learner will have their own learner profile page. I can go in to a specific group to locate the learner, or I can tap all learners on this device. I then tap on the learner's name. So in this example, let's go back into Michael Sheridan. And then if I want, at the beginning, you see what evidence or reports are on my specific device. As you saw before, I uploaded it to the cloud. So I tap the cloud icon at the top right to see any evidence or reports that have been gathered or made for Michael. So we're on Michael Sheridan's cloud profile or learner profile page. I can scroll through to see any of these pieces of evidence and be able to tap on them to see them in more detail. So I can tap back on to see the piece of evidence that I've gathered today. And if I wanted to edit this, I can turn the green square to orange and then click on any of the pencil icons to be able to edit, for example, the comment, the framework links, or the tags in this example. Once I've finished making the changes, I would turn the orange square back to green and I would press save at the top right. So we can see all the evidence that's been gathered. We can also see any PDF documents that have been uploaded to the cloud for Michael. And what we can also see at the bottom, if there's any sort of parent comments or feedback from parents too. So let's now go back to the home screen of the app. So I'm just pressing the back arrows at the top left to end up back on the screen where we started. The next icon I want to look at is the evidence icon, which is directly underneath capture in the middle. So let's tap on that evidence icon here. And then I can press filter at the top right. This is a great way to be able to search for evidence that's in the cloud and that I want to be able to access. So it'll just remember what you were searching last. So if you were just searching for evidence on your device, that's what it will show. If you want to change it to search the cloud, you just tap on it. And this is where now I can drill down into a date range. So maybe I want to look at all the evidence that was gathered in a particular term or a particular academic year. Or I could search for all the evidence in the cloud for a particular group, for example, by tapping onto it. I could pick a selected group of learners to be able to find the evidence. Or I could search for a specific learner, and that's what we're going to do today. So all to the right of learners, I'm going to tap again. All learners on this device, and I'm going to find the evidence for Michael. The next bit then is to be able to see any evidence. If we wanted to, we could also filter by tag. So I could tap on all to the right of tags to be able to find any evidence that's got a specific tag for Michael. So in this example, I'm just going to actually search for all the evidence for Michael. If I wanted to, though, I could actually search for a specific framework item. And if we are gathering information around an indicator set, such as engagement, then I could also focus on that particularly. So at the moment, though, let's look for all the evidence in the cloud for Michael, and I just press apply at the top right. And then this allows me, again, to see the evidence that I've gathered today. I can also tap in to be able to see a previous piece of evidence. And in this example, this is, again, just to remind you, a real piece of evidence. And you can see the comment here is written in such a way that the members of staff at the school felt was going to be really useful for them to be able to record observations and to be able to record progress. So they kept it quite succinct in terms of the comment, but language around what they were able to do independently, as well as language around what sort of prompts or reminders the member staff helped them with in this activity or this day. You can also see they've done a very small sort of synopsis, I suppose, of what was taking place in video 1 and what was taking place in video 2, and also looking at what the sort of focus of that particular intervention was. So again, I do think it makes sense that you and the colleagues come together and talk about the types of evidence that you want to gather, and also importantly, the type of comments that you want to be able to record in, that is going to be able to capture language around progress, attainment and reflection to be able to help build up that rich and vivid picture for each learner, so everyone's really clear on what the targets are for this learner, why the targets are that, and also what are we doing to help the learner, and in this case Michael, to reach and to progress further. So the next bit then I'm going to do, and again you can see here the frameworks it's been linked to. So I'm just going to press cancel at the top left to come out of where we are, and press the back arrow top left. So we're back on the home screen of the app. The next thing then what we can do is we want to go into the assessment area today. So we're going to log into the assessment area down at the bottom right. So it's the pencil and pad icon at the bottom right. Then each assessment user or assessment manager has their own login details to access the assessment area of the app, as well as access the web console. So we use the same username and password for both of those places. You just tap continue. So assessment users have access to see the assessment books they've been given specific access, specific permission to access. Assessment managers can have access automatically to all assessment books. So as I'm an assessment manager, I can click show all at the bottom right, and I can see all the assessment books in the system. If I was an assessment user, I'd just see the ones that I've already got permission for. So a PLG, that framework with a set of personalized outcomes for one learner, is two things. It's a framework with a set of personalized outcomes, and it's also an assessment book. So we're going to tap now on the assessment book side of the PLG to be able to open it. What we'll see then, and this is a really powerful and useful place for members of staff and SLT to be coming on a regular basis to be able to really be able to see the targets that Michael's currently working towards and all the progress and inputs from the whole team that's helping Michael to progress towards achieving that target. So in this particular example, again, we can see the long-term outcome here and here in terms of Michael have mastered working with numbers and recognizing numericals. And what we can then see is next to each item, we can see how much evidence has been gathered to any of these outcomes or items within the framework. So in this example, I'm going to tap on this number 24 just here. This was the piece of evidence that we've gathered today. So you can see that's the most recent piece of evidence. And what this builds up is this then shows you all the evidence and all the observations that the whole team has been gathered for Michael, you can see some include photos and videos and some don't, to be able to sort of celebrate, record, and recognize the progress that Michael's been making, as well as all the inputs that teams have put in to be able to help that progress take place. So I can tap on to this, the first piece of evidence that was gathered. And again, what we can see here is in this particular example, Michael was recognizing letter sounds and using his picture puzzles to be able to do it. So I'm going to tap on the play the actual video. You won't be able to actually hear the sound, but Michael here is recognizing the letter sounds and using his jigsaw puzzle to be able to do it. Just come back out of there. And we can come back out of that piece of evidence, and then we can go further through. And then what we can see is if we look at a more recent piece of evidence. So I'm now going to tap onto this new piece of evidence. I'm going to go into what's this video. And what we can see here is Michael has become more skilled and more confident in being able to recognize the letter sounds and being able to be self-reliant and be able to do it. So I'll come back out of here and press cancel at the top left. And again, you can imagine how this builds up a case study really for Michael of all the progress and all the inputs that have gone in to helping Michael to be able to become more confident at this particular skill. So I'm going to press the back arrow at the top left. Within the assessment book, I won't spend a long time on it today, but as well as being really powerful, being able to see how much evidence has been linked to each outcome, you can also use assessment books to make assessment judgments. So in this example, I'll tap on here so we can see the school was using a continuum from new up until generalized. And again, there'll be further information in the EfL Online Resource Centre on how you can start to use and create your own assessment continuums to track progress, alongside using baselines to be able to say this is a starting point and then regularly assess them as and when you need to. So the assessment books are a really powerful way of seeing all the evidence that's been linked to specific outcomes for a learner, as well as being able to use them if you want to be able to make assessment judgments, including baseline judgments. So what we're now going to do is I'm going to come back out of the assessment area of the app. So let's press the back arrow top left. And then we're going to switch across now to look at the browser version of the Evidence for Learning app, which is called the web console. So we've now logged into the web console, the browser version of the app, and this allows you to use a computer to be able to gather evidence or review evidence that's in the cloud. There are some other features too, but that's what we'll be focusing on today. So I could, if I wanted to, search by a specific group of learners, but in this example, I want to first of all locate Michael again. So I'm just going to search in the search box, start to type his name in the learners box, click on Michael and say search. And then if I wanted to, I could see all the evidence for Michael that's at the bottom is displayed. We'll look at that further in a moment. If I wanted to capture some evidence for Michael, I then click the capture button to the right of his name. So this now I can use a computer to be able to capture some evidence. And that might be useful because maybe some photo or video is available on a computer, but wasn't captured on a particular device. Maybe it's captured on a camera and it's now being added onto a computer that I can access. So I'm first of all going to click upload in one of these boxes. So I can then click upload to be able to upload a photo or video that I can access onto my computer. So I'm just going to stop sharing just while I locate the photo. So I'm just going to click upload, and then you can access anything that you can access on your PC. So I'm going to pick the photo that I want to use today and then just click open. So I'll start sharing my screen with you again. So once you do click on the photo or video that you want to add, it will then upload it onto the piece of evidence. And then I can now add a comment to it. So again, I could just type freehand, but now using a keyboard. Or if I want to use a comment template, I click Insert Comment Template, which is just here. And then again, I can pick the comment template that I want to use. So I want to use this specific one. And then again, what I can now do is I can use a keyboard to maybe add more detailed comments if I wanted to. And again, you could fill in the other information in terms of next steps or observed by. As before, I may want to just be able to add the photos and videos in the comments, but I may also want to link this piece of evidence to a specific framework. So I can click Edit or select Framework items to the right of Frameworks. And then what will happen is it will first of all give you the frameworks that Michael's ever had evidence linked to it. So again, I could then click straight into Michael Sheridan E8CP, which I will do in a moment. But I can also, if I wanted to, search for any of the PLGs that are currently in the cloud or any of the frameworks that aren't PLGs. Or I can click on all to see all the frameworks that are in the cloud. And I can also use the search box to be able to filter by name. So there's a small list, but just to show you the feature, I can start to type Michael in the name. I can then click on the name of the framework that I want to link evidence to. And as before, that this is now Michael Sheridan's PLG. Grey dots indicate that evidence has been linked to it. And again, I can click on them to link more evidence to that specific outcome. And as before, I can then click apply and close. And I could repeat the process by clicking on edit or select framework items if I wanted to link it to a different framework as well. So as in the app, you can link one piece of evidence to a number of items within one framework or to a number of frameworks. I can then also click in the tags box to be able to click or add a tag to the piece of evidence. And again, this is a demonstration school, so you won't have so many tags in your school, I'm sure, but you can then just add any tag that you want to by clicking in the box and picking the relevant tags. In a similar way to the app, there's an option at the top to be able to change the evidence from draft to published. On the web console, because you're creating it on the web console, it will automatically be saved to the cloud. However, if you want the piece of evidence to show up in the assessment books, and you also want it to be possibly included in a PDF of the learner's evidence, you turn the white box at the top, you click on it, and it turns it to green with a tick. And then once I save this piece of evidence, it will also show up in the assessment books. So I can scroll down and click save at the bottom. So that piece of evidence will now be, it's uploaded to the cloud, and because I made it green and published, it will also show up in the assessment books. I can click on evidence at the top left to go back to the evidence screen. And if I wanted to locate all the evidence for Michael, I could again locate the learner, scroll down, and I can see the piece of evidence that I've just gathered using the desktop computer. Just so you can see it, I can click in the piece of evidence, I can click edit at the top right, and then again, as before, I could make changes to this, and then if I wanted to, I'd click save at the bottom, and that piece of evidence would be updated. If we just go back to the evidence screen, I just want to draw your attention that you can also drill down further. So yes, you could either search for a whole group of learners or for a specific learner at the top. So if I wanted to, again, could search for Michael if I wanted to, a specific group, click search. So let's just do that now. So let's do Michael, click search at the top. If I scroll down further, then what I could do is search for either a framework item within a specific framework, or I could search for all the evidence for Michael, or we'd selected a group before the group that's been linked to a specific tag. So you can use this in the middle to be able to drill down further in terms of the evidence you want to look for, and then click apply. So hopefully that's given you a really useful way of being able to see how you can also use the web console to be able to capture evidence for a learner. As in the app, you can access the assessment books. You can also, on the web console, access the assessment books. So I'm going to click assessment books from the top menu here. And again, assessment users would see the assessment books they've got specific permission to see. You can search for assessment books. You can search for PLGs or non-PLG frameworks or all. And you can also, if you're an assessment manager, click show all assessment books, top right. So I'm going to scroll down as before. Actually, I want to use the search function. So at the top, I'm going to search for Michael. You can locate Michael's assessment book straight away, click on it, and as before, then we see the framework items down the left-hand side, and we can access the whole assessment book now on a desktop computer. I can click on any of these numbers to be able to review the evidence in more detail, and if I wanted to, I could make assessment judgments too. So the web console is a really useful way of being able to capture and review evidence using a desktop computer. This actual webinar did have a question and answer session at the end, but due to not being recorded correctly through Zoom, unfortunately, I won't be able to bring that question and answer session to you. What I will be able to, though, do is go through some of the questions that were asked, and I'll try and give the answers the best I can. So some questions did come up around, first of all, the length of the video. So the length of the video that you can capture evidence using the app is up to 1 minute. You can add up to 3 1-minute videos to one piece of evidence using the app. You may sometimes be able to find that you can add a video slightly over a minute to a piece of evidence using the web console. You can obviously gather more pieces of evidence if you want to be able to gather 3, 4, 5 pieces of short videos. You can always gather a couple of pieces of evidence. Other questions were raised around assessment and where you'd be able to find more information around assessment. So what I'm now going to do is go across to the EfL Online Resource Centre and point people in the right sort of directions for some of the links or guides that would be useful for the questions that came up. So I've now navigated to the EfL Online Resource Centre, and the web address to get here is resources.evidenceforlearning.net. So you don't need to put www or anything like that at the beginning. It's straight into resources.evidenceforlearning.net. And within here, you'll find lots of guides and videos. As you'll know, you'll find more information about upcoming online events and workshops towards the top to register for further EfL online workshops that are coming up shortly. If I scroll down, so questions came up around assessment and how to create your own assessment continuum. So within the EfL Online Resource Centre, you can tap on the assessment section just here. And the first part would be to create a continuum to track progress. And if you click on that link, there would be a guide, including a walkthrough video, to show you how you can use a continuum or create a continuum from scratch, or use one of the preloaded versions to be able to edit to make it suit your needs, but you can build it from scratch as well. So that would point you in the right direction there. There were also questions raised about sort of future adaptations or developments that might be taking place with evidence for learning. So alongside, evidence for learning has only got to where it's got to by listening to schools and taking on the feedback of what schools would feel would benefit them to be able to track learners' progress and to celebrate their progress and to be able to record it in one place in a better or more efficient way. So evidence for learning will continue to grow, continue to develop, partly based on the feedback that we receive from schools. There are some very large developments that are currently taking place over this half term. So at the moment, parents and carers can log in to see evidence that's been shared with them through a unique online web page that they can access. We are launching our very first Evidence for Learning family app, and that will become live during this half term. It's going to be great, to be honest, for family members to be able to log in using the app, because I think they'll find that a more efficient way, and schools are really looking forward to them to be engaging in that sort of way going forward. It also means that at the moment, the online web parent accounts are limited to 2 family members, whereas the EfL family app is truly that. It is a family app, and it recognises that extended family members may be very key in recognising and sharing evidence themselves. So you can add more family members to the EfL family app, and there's also much more detail of what you want to allow particular family members to see or to share. There is further information on that in terms of, I'll direct you in a moment to a link where you can see a demonstration of the EfL family app in action. So let's do that now, actually. So we're back into the resource centre. If I scroll down, you will also see a section called EfL Family App. I'm going to click on that, and that will take us to one article that's currently in the system. So I'll just click on that again. This then points out some of the new and exciting features of the EfL Family App, but also there's a live demonstration tour of a webinar that we held before the half-term holiday in October. So if you are interested in the EfL Family App, the opportunities that that's going to bring, please come to this video to be able to watch it. So it's here within the EfL Online Resource Centre, and within the EfL Family App, you'll be able to locate this video. Alongside that, other developments that are taking place. So the EfL Family App is built into people's subscriptions. There's not an additional charge for that. There are 2 optional add-on modules that are coming out as well towards the end of this half term, and that's going to be a guest app and a learner app. Those will be optional, and therefore information around pricing and costings to those extra optional modules, there'll be more information coming out during this half term. The guest user app is going to be used by schools when you've got therapists potentially who are coming into the school on a regular basis, and you want to be able to give them access to evidence for learning and the ability to capture and review evidence if you want, but to a small cohort of learners. It might be a specific learner or for a number of learners, but not all the learners across the school. It would also be useful in relation to transition if you wanted to set up a guest user account for the new school to be able to access a learner's evidence for a period of time, as well as for accreditation. So we're really excited about the guest user module, and further information on that will be sent out to schools during this half term. The Evidence for Learning Learner app, which will also be coming out towards the end of this half term, what that will be is it'll be an app that is restricted to one learner. So you could set a learner up so that they can have access to their evidence. And if you want to, they could also have access to capturing and reviewing that evidence. So the learner app will be really useful for the schools who want the learners to be more involved in capturing and reviewing their evidence within your school. I hope this EfL online workshop, where we focused on how to capture and review evidence, has been useful. And as ever, always feel free to get in touch with us if you've got any questions at all. You can contact us at services@theteachercloud.net.